let's go ahead
Hater.
and move on then to Vancouver and their newest designated player. Stuart Armstrong, a signing that came out of nowhere. At least for me, I wasn't seeing it happen, but formerly of Southampton in England and a Scottish international, has joined up with fellow Scotsman Ryan Gauld in Vancouver on a designated player deal. He has over 500 matches in his career to this point, 214 of which came for Southampton in the Prem, one season in the Championship. But in that season in the Championship, nearly 3,000 minutes over 42 appearances. Clearly still has a lot left in the legs to give. His time in England is capped at 25 goals, 19 assists. He's got 51 caps for Scotland, playing in two of the Euro games as a sub this year. Connor, what are your thoughts? How does he fit into Vancouver? What are you excited about?
So when I'm looking into his transfer market, it looked like he could play the eight spot. He had the center mid spot. He's definitely not even remotely towards the six role, based on what his player report said on FBref. He is an attacking man and he does not play defense from what it looked like. So I definitely think he would have to be the eight role if he's going to play in that center mid spot. But he also had some time played on the wings. I don't know if it was super far forward in terms of being like a winger or if it was more like a left midfield, right midfield spot. But I would personally rather see him play on the wings instead of in the middle because Vancouver, at least so far this season, has played very wide. And I think having a player in the midfield too that they have typically played with who doesn't do much of any, if any at all, defensive work, I think could be risky. So I think he'd be better used on the wings. And whether that's as a winger or a wing back, I think you could kind of go either way. But I think it would be cool to see him play in maybe like the right wing back spot, and you could link him up on the same flank as Ryan Gauld and create a little like Scotsman chemistry going on over there. And I think that would be a very dangerous flank going forward. Obviously, the risk there is I don't know if either of them are going to play much defense, so it could be a little bit subject on the defensive side. But I think if you're going to bring him into the starting 11, I personally would rather see him out on the wings if they're going to keep the same style of play that they're currently playing.
Yeah, I disagree. I like him in the middle of the field. I think that a couple of players that they've had has not been up to the level that they would expect. So I can see him sliding into the midfield as a second central midfielder, kind of behind everybody, kind of just setting the tone. However, I would also really love to see them run him and Gauld in a two attacking mid formation behind Brian White. Right now Ryan Gauld's playing as a wide winger and Kubas and Vite are behind them. And I'd be really interested if it's something like a 3-4-2-1, where you've got your back three, that middle four can stay the way it is, and then you've got Gauld and Armstrong underneath a Brian White. You've got players like Adekube, you've got Ali Ahmed, who's done very well for Canada this international break. Ryan Raposo, Fafa Pico, all can play on the flanks. Allow them to do all the hard work, and then just find the inside lane to Gauld or Armstrong and let them cook. Win the ball, get it up to that front three, and have at it. So I would rather see him central than out wide. I think his comfort is there, kind of setting the tone and creating chances. I think that's probably where he belongs, and I would reckon that that's probably what Vanni Sartini sees as well.
I think if he's going to play central, I'd personally rather keep Fafa Pico in there because I think he's done really well this season. I would say take Pedro Vite out
Yeah,
of that center mid two spot and just plug him right there and just
yeah,
have him play
that
next to Kubas.
that was one of the guys I was referencing before, being like not really playing up. He was my player to watch, so of course he didn't play up to the standard that we expected. Sorry, um, but yeah, he just hasn't quite fit in the role there, and perhaps just having him learn under somebody like Armstrong could be really nice.
My only concern with just kind of like plugging him into the Vite spot, and maybe it's fine considering it's worked so far this season with Vite, and I don't think Vite is much of a defensive player. It's just like kind of putting all the defensive duties on Kubas to figure out in the midfield because if they do kind of stick with that 3-4-3 shape and then have Armstrong as one of those midfielders, if he's caught up field, it's just kind of like Kubas versus the world in the midfield spot in terms of
Mhm.
defensive duties. And And I know he's a good defensive mid, and he can get the job done if he needs to. But I feel like that could be a spot that teams like look to exploit and overwhelm is that midfield if they do stick with that same formation. But it's a tough spot because now you have a lot of good attacking options, which actually no, I'm gonna control myself. I was about to probably jump into a topic that you haven't talked about yet, so let me just stop there.
Well, let me ask you then, if they have all of these people and all of these, big attacking talents, how much better does Vancouver get with him?
Thank goodness you asked me that question because that's what I was about to jump into.
You're so good on controlling yourself, so good on recognizing the trends. What a guy.
I'm improving. You see this? This is improvement because I didn't do it with the Columbus one, but now
Per
later in the episode,
Personal
like
growth. It's what we love to
I
see.
know, I know in real time we could watch it. I 100% think this is an improvement for Vancouver. Considering they've been defensively solid this season. They've been getting the job done defensively, but the thing that I think they've been lacking in is goals. The four teams that are ahead of them in the standings right now, and I actually don't know if that's still the case after last night's games. So don't crucify me. Oh no, it's five teams now that are ahead of them because of Seattle's win. Just remember, I wrote this. Vancouver's got two games in hand. Let's just assume they're above Seattle. The four teams above them in the standings all have more goals than them, and by like a decent margin. They definitely needed help in terms of scoring goals, and Armstrong is absolutely someone who's going to help them in that regard. So I think it's a good signing. I think they recognized an area of need for them, and I think they did a good job of trying to address that.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good move. It's not putting them into a top of the West conversation, right? It's not. Is it giving them a better chance in the playoffs? Sure, maybe. To me, I think this sets them up to have a bit more structure and identity and find the right players to get the best out of the group in 2025. He's going to have, by the time he gets over and his visa gets over here, he's going to have like 4 games before the playoffs. It's not going to be a game-changing 4 games. But I'd be curious if he gets going with Gald and White. Can they go on a deep run, maybe to a conference final or such? I don't think that this team is better than LAFC. I don't think they're better than the Galaxy. I think one of those two teams might have a slip up in the playoffs and give them a path forward, but I don't think they get above either of those teams. So I think it's a good move to start, but not groundbreaking yet. They still have a couple more to run with, and Brian White needs to get healthy.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I don't think it's necessarily a move where all of a sudden they're challenging at the top of the West. Even I think even next year, I don't think it's a move that gets them challenging at the top of the West. I agree with you. I still think both LA teams are better. I think Portland has the potential to still be better than them next year. Seattle's always in the mix.
We can't we
RSL,
can't keep
also a
talking
very good
about
team.
Portland. We can't keep doing that. They're
I
never gonna
know.
win
They've been
anything.
poor. I know. They should be better than they have been. I don't know what's up with them. Maybe they'll turn it around, but yeah, I still think it's an improvement because it's an area that they needed to improve upon. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's changing their fate for this season. But who knows? Now that we just said that, congratulations, Vancouver 2024 MLS Cup champions.